Hi, so a lesson on voicings on the top four strings, chord voicings on the top four strings, because as a guitarist in a band you'll often be concentrating, or your sound will be coming mainly from the top four strings because you've got a bass player or keyboard player who's filling out the sound, so you don't really need to put in the bass frequencies, and you don't need to play those full big block chords. You can just play just the top four strings of them, or top three strings. But if we think about the top four strings and the shapes, so I'm thinking of a blues in A, just a 12-bar blues in A, and so my one chord is A7, and I've got this E shape, E7 shape bar chord giving me A7 at the 5th fret. So if instead of playing the full big E7 I just play the top four strings, I want to get familiar with that shape that I got 5, 6, 5, 5. And of course I've also got, I can put my little finger on the B string at the 8th fret, just as it comes from the same voicing, the E-shaped voicing. That gives the flat 7 there. And thinking of the cage system, this is my E shape. Shape's coming from the E shape. So the next shape is a D shape, and that's up here. 7, 9, 8, 9. And of course there's a D shaped voicing. It is just the four top strings, just as when you play a D, it's just the four top strings. Okay, so I've got these voicings for my one chord. I could also put the root in there on the 7th fret of the D string, if I've got the flat 7 here on the 8th fret of the B string. Okay, going on to the 4 chord, which is D7 in this case. The A shape, the A7 shaped bar chord at the 5th fret gives me the chord D7. And if I think of this shape, the A7 shape, but just the top four strings, I have 7, 5, 7, 5. And I could play all four strings, or I could just take the top three strings. If I take the top three strings only, I can also put that flat 7 in here at the 8th fret of the top E string, which is from that shape, that voicing of a 7 chord. That's A7 like that, coming from that. So yes, so I could just do the top three strings, and then if I just do that, I've got my little finger free to get the flat 7 up there on the 8th fret of the top E string. Or I could do the D, G and B strings, and then I've got fret 7, 5, 7. The typical thing is to just slide into that shape from a semitone below or a fret below. And then I could add, so I'm just playing the D, G and B strings there, and then I can add the top E string to the voicing, and then I've got a bit of melodic movement there. And then of course I can go up to that part of that D7 shape, and then back to my one chord. Another voicing around this area for your D7 chord. This is the A7 shape. So right next to the A7 shape, thinking of the cage system, just before it is a C7 shape. Typically, we play that on the middle four strings, just as you do a C7. And then when you're playing a C7, you've got an open top E string, so you don't have to worry about fretting that. But if we were to take this C7 shape and think of what the shape of it is on the top four strings, well, on strings D, G and B, I've got frets 4, 5 and 3, and that's a good shape in itself. Good voicing. And even from there I'm just emphasising B string and then G string. But if I'm doing the top, if I add the E string to it, I can either add the E string 5th fret, and that gives me the 5th of the chord, or the E string 2nd fret, and that gives me the major 3rd of the chord. And if I do that voicing, where I've got the major 3rd of the chord and the top E string, I tend to do just the 3 top strings, which is 5, 3, 2. Okay, going to the E chord, the 5 chord, E7 in this case. Of course I can take that A7 shape up 2 frets, and then I'm at the 7th fret, and so I would have on the top 4 strings 9, 7, 9, 7, or of course I can do that one again, where I've got 9, 9, 9, 10, yeah, so I can use the same shapes as I did for my A shape, and of course that means I can use the C shape as well, or the C7 shape. So for the E chord, the C7 shape would be fret-wise 7, 6, 7, 5. And then as it's an E chord, I can have that top E string open, and then you'd want to mute it as you went down to the D chord. You could add it to the D chord to give you a 9 feeling, an add 9 feeling, or D9 feeling rather, because you're adding E, which is the 9th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, the 9th note from the root of the chord. And again, if we're thinking of that C7 voicing, and we think of what's it on the top 4 strings, well, for the E chord, it can either be 6, 7, 5, 7, or 6, 7, 5, 4. See how I do these full shapes as well, and then I'm just emphasizing the top 3 or 4 strings. But it is really good to get to know the shapes on the top 4 strings, because that can give you new ideas and new voicings. Well, certainly new voicings, but also new ideas. Okay, hope that helps.